Hello and welcome to your painting session with the Farmhouse Studios. I am Zaida Hickson and I'll be your instructor for today, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So first we need to do our background. So we have a blue gradient in our background, which means we need a light blue and the regular blue that came with your kit, as well as a darker blue on top. And so we will go ahead and blend those colors. So we're going to start with this medium-sized brush. This will be the brush that we will use to do our blending. And so we're going to just take a few scoops of that blue out of our cup, or if you're just at home and don't plan on using this cup again, you can just dump the whole thing right onto your palette. So I'm just taking a few scoops of that blue and putting it to the side, and I'm going to make a few piles. So I need one that will be used for my darker blue, which you might need more because your canvas might be larger than mine. And then I will need another pile for the light blue. So we have one for our dark blue. This is our regular blue, which will go in the middle. And then we have one for our light blue. And so I'm going to go ahead and also put some white and black on my palette. So we now have the colors that will make our blue lighter and darker. So I'm going to start with the lighter blue because I can easily transition into making the darker one. So I'm just going to take a scoop of the white and I'm going to mix it in that blue. And you want to make sure that you get all of the paint out of your brush so that it can properly mix into your color. And you also want to make sure that you push the paint into a nice pile. That way it doesn't dry up before you get a chance to use it, and it can be useful when it's time to put on our background. So once you have that, I'm just squeezing out of the excess paint out of my light blue. And I think this is a good light blue. Of course, this is your painting, so you can go even lighter. This is perfect for me. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off. You can do that by moving the brush along the bottom of the cup. That helps you spread the bristles, and just make sure that you clean in between everything. I also put it to the side a little bit because sometimes you can get that paint that gets stuck on the metal part of your brush and it's annoying. But if you can't just get that off in the water, you can do that with a nice paper towel. If I don't just mess up this whole set. And we're just going to wipe that off. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because we can perfectly transition into making our darker blue. If we still have a little bit of blue in our brush, it's okay. So I'm just taking a few scoops of our black paint and I'm mixing that in. And if yours turns out way too dark like mine has, you can always add more blue. So I'm just taking a scoop and adding that into there. And again, you just want to make sure that you're pushing that pile to the middle. And I think I'm going to go a little bluer, so I'm just going to add another nice scoop of blue, which means I would need to add a little bit more to my plate or my palette. And then there we go. And I'm just rolling out that paint again. All of that is useful because once you run out of paint, you have to mix again. And that is not my favorite part of painting. So I try to make sure that I have enough. And I'm just cleaning off my brush because we're going to start with the light blue. And we're starting with that because it makes it easy to just transition into the next colors. If you start with the darker blue, it's a little bit harder to then transition into the light. So I'm just cleaning off my brush again with that water and that technique that I showed you. And for your canvas, well, actually we'll be on the same page, and I'll go in with this biggest brush. So you should have a bigger brush in there. It may not look like mine, but your biggest brush, it'll help you cover up the canvas a little bit faster. So we are just fully coating our light blue brush, our biggest brush with that light blue that we made, and we're starting at the bottom of our canvas. And I'll have to lift mine up a little bit to get the very bottom, but you do not have to necessarily worry about the sides yet. We will have a moment where you can worry about filling in those sides, but for now we're just going to focus on the front. All right, and then we have a nice blue base, and where we ended that blue, you do not need to clean your brush off because we're going to do some blending. So where we ended that blue, it's okay if it looks a little rusty, how it has here all of these little scratchy marks, because we're just going to dip right into our regular blue. So that's just the regular blue that we had on our palette or that you have in your cup. And we're going to take that and we're going to just blend that right into that lighter blue. And I like to try to blend it first and then bring it up. And you don't have to be rough with it, but you do want to make sure that you're smoothing everything out. This will make the process go by a little bit quicker, because in order for us to do our next layer, we have to wait for this to completely dry. So I'm just going to go back. The key to blending is just working with the paint, kind of flowing with it, and just blending out any harsh lines that you see and any big globs of paint that have appeared. And then once we have our nice blue, we can then transition into our darker blue. And you can bring your blue as far up as you would like. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit more because I like the way it looks. It's very pretty. And I feel like it adds another dimension to this blending. Okay, so once we've brought that regular blue, the one that came originally with your palette or with your kit, we're going to go ahead, same dirty brush, and we're going to dip into our darker blue. And the same technique that we use for our lighter blue, I am just going to start right where that last blue ended, and I'm blending down into that color. And as you can see, I'm just working with that wet paint, and I'm just incorporating them together. Very simple. It is only as hard as you make it. And there we go. Nice gentle brush strokes going back and forth. That's why you want to make sure that your brush is loaded with paint, because it will make it easier to glide that paint across. And if you find that your brush gets too loaded with paint because we did not clean in between, go ahead and just clean your brush off. I think mine has become overloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off and dry it, and I'm going to just make sure that I'm smoothing everything out. Because I want this to dry so that you're not here for 5 hours waiting for my canvas to dry for your next step. So I've cleaned and dried off my brush, and I'm just smoothing everything out. And look at that nice gradient that we've created. And now at this point is where you can worry about painting the sides. You don't necessarily have to do that because of course people see your painting from the front view, but you can go ahead and worry about that. But we need to wait for this to dry in order for us to put Milwaukee over it. We need this layer to dry, so that's why we wanted to make sure that it's thin. So we're going to go ahead, I will paint the sides, and then we just at that point have to just wait for it to dry. And I made a little mistake here when painting the sides. Be very careful. Be better than me. But it will be covered up by a building later anyway. So it's no big deal. But now we'll just wait for our paintings to dry. If you're still working, just continue to work. All right. I just wanted to pop my hands back in so if you're skipping through the video that you know to stop and tune back in at this point. So now I think our canvases should be a little dry. Of course, if yours isn't, you can go ahead and wait a little more time. The sides might not be dry, but I'm not really going to be working on the sides. So the way that you can tell if it's dry is that it'll look matte when it's dry. When it's not dry, you'll have like those very shiny like globs of paint. Like I've got one here that I'm just going to smooth out. Um, it really isn't that important that, you know, certain spots are completely dry because they'll be painted over. So just to give it a few more seconds to dry, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my brushes are clean for this next step. So again, I'm just moving that water around the bottom of the cup, cleaning those brushes off and completely drying them with my paper towels. Just making sure I dry them. And at this point, we're about to add some beautiful colors into our sky. So we need to add those to our palette. And for these colors, we're just using the colors just as they are. So the red that you have and the yellow that you have. And then we're also going to use the dark blue that we blended as well as the light blue that we blended and white. So we already have those on our palette. We have the white, we have the blue, light blue, dark blue. And now I'm just going to add some yellow and red. So just using, I have multiple cups here, so don't be alarmed. And so I'm just adding a scoop. I don't need much for my canvas personally because it is a lot smaller than yours will probably be. So I'm just adding that yellow and then I'm taking some red, but I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off before I add that red to my plate because I don't necessarily need orange. So I'm just cleaning my brush off and drying it completely. And then I'm just going to add some scoops of red. And there we go. Now we have all of the colors that we need for this entire painting on our palette. And I'm just going to go ahead and close up my containers so that they do not dry out. This is also buying time to give your painting some more time to dry. But I would advise you to close your containers as well so that your paint does not dry out, or at least sit the cap on top. And you just make sure that your brushes are clean so that we can go ahead and add all of our beautiful swirls and designs onto our painting. And that's just my water over there. Alright, so my brushes are clean. You will probably no longer need that larger brush, but I'm going to be using for this next step, I have these medium-sized brushes as well as our little detail brushes that you will find in your kit. And we're going to go ahead and paint that background. So for our own peace of mind, I'm going to go ahead and add that horizon line that you see in the painting. And I'm just going with plain black paint, and I'm going with my tiniest detail brush and just completely getting that brush coated because we don't want skimpy lines. We want a nice fluid straight line. So it would be about 2 inches from the bottom of your canvas depending on the size. For yours it might be 3, and I'm just going to draw a line right across. And the line doesn't have to be perfect because buildings will go on top of it and different designs will go on top of it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the most perfect lines, but I do advise you whenever you are painting lines to go on with confidence. Confidence is how you get straight lines. So you just go on with the confidence. You see me adding these corrections is me losing my confidence and ruining my lines. Okay, so now we're going to work on our sky. So for our sky, we're going to start with our light blue. So I'm just taking this brush. It kind of fans out a little bit if you can see. So that would add a nice scratchiness to our background. The scratchiness we avoid when we're making lines. We need it now to add texture to our painting. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can also take a detail brush and just draw the individual lines on there. So I'm going to first go in with my light blue, and I'm just going to coat the ends of that brush mostly, and that helps get those lines to appear. And we're just going to create our swirls. So I'm starting with the edge of the canvas, and I'm just fanning my brush out. So you're making very light strokes. And of course, as you can see, mine doesn't show up as well, but it's okay because we're going to build on top of those colors. So again, we're just creating swirls. You want to fill your background in with those swirls. A nice little Van Gogh moment. As you can see, I picked up some of the black. It's okay. Adds texture, adds dimension. No mistakes. And we're just going to fill it in. Add them wherever you see fit. You do not have to necessarily follow my guidelines. You can always add your swirls however you would like, but we're going to make sure that we diversify sizes. All right. So we've got our blue swirls down. I think those look pretty good. All right. So with that same brush, you do not necessarily need to clean it yet because I'm going to go in with a little bit of the darker blue that we used. Well, let's do the regular blue first, and then we can go in with the darker blue. We'll just, same way we did the gradient, we'll transition. So with that darker blue, I'm going to go again, adding some swirls, adding some dimension to those swirls. And it looks like I need to start adding some more paint into my palette. There's not a lot of blue paint on here. But yes, we are adding that blue in. Alright, and I'm just going to go ahead and clean my brush. Cleaning and drying my brush off. And I'm going to actually go in with the smallest detail brush to add these other details in. So I'm going in with my dark blue. And I'm just creating some nice little lines. And you just want to make sure that you're using the lightest of brush strokes. You don't need heavy hands for this. You want to be very gentle in order to get that fan-like effect. Just carelessly. Like there is no method. You're just adding these lines on here confidently. You don't need to be too tense or focused on how they go because it's supposed to be a painting that kind of flows. All right, so there we go. We've got our blues down, and now we can start adding our pops of color. So I think I'm going to start off with the yellow because if I do the red first, I don't necessarily want to pick up any of the red when I'm doing my yellow. So I'm going to do the yellow first, and then if we pick up some of the yellow when we do our red, it's okay. I don't know if that made sense, but it all just came out. Alright, so I'm just using that same detail brush, going into my red paint that I put here. And we're basically just doing the same thing that we did with the black lines. We're just going in, and red might be your favorite color, so you might be like, I want to add so much red to this painting. Go ahead, it's yours. And look at that, isn't that so pretty? That pop of color that we just added. And even as that brush starts to lose paint, you get like this nice texture that's very good for your painting, if I do say so myself. Look at that. Amazing. And I was warned that there would be an annoying fly, and it decided to make its appearance as I'm getting into the beautiful parts of the painting. Alright, and I'm just cleaning off that brush. If you're not done adding your red because you are in love with red, or you've decided that you wanted to add some different colors, you wanted to make an orange, you wanted to make a teal, continue to do so. I'm just cleaning off my brush because I'm ready to do my yellow. So with a clean and dry brush, same detail brush, fully coating it with that yellow paint. And I'm going in with the yellow paint a little different because as you can see from the picture, the yellow is centered in the center. There are stars, and we also have the moon. Right here will be the biggest concentration of yellow, and so we want to make sure that we add a good amount of it into the middle. I'm just going to turn the music up a little bit more. But yes, so, and also you can make orange by running into that red, but I'm not necessarily looking for any orange spots right now, so I'm going to avoid the red a little bit and just kind of work in between it. So I'm just going to do the details that are around the circle, and then I will go back in and add my my center stars and moon and things like that. Just make sure that you're moving in that circular motion. And again, light brush strokes. Alright. Alright, I like that. I really do. So I'm going to go ahead and start to add my little stars and moons in the middle, or moon singular. And I'm going with that same brush and that same yellow. Now, if you are uncomfortable with adding this layer on here, knowing that the red might possibly still be wet, the blue might possibly still wet, you can wait for it to dry. Like I said, once it turns matte, that means it is dry, and then you can put your moons in. I'm feeling confident. I feel like these moons will look nice putting them in right now, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm just creating a swirl, a nice little circle, right in the middle with that same brush, and then I'm fanning it out, create some lines around it, just like that. And I think that I will make that one bigger because it is supposed to be our moon, so we want to give it a little more attention. Doesn't have to be a perfect circle. This is just giving the suggestion of light being there, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And again, with some smaller stars, just going in, creating those swirls and fanning them out. Isn't that beautiful? And just continue to add them wherever we added our swirls in the beginning. When we did it with blue, we're just doing it again in the middle this time, creating little focal points to those swirls. Oh, that's a lot of paint. Which is a reminder that this layer needs to be thin as well, because in order for us to put our buildings on top, we don't necessarily want to pick up any of that yellow paint. And I'm just going in first, drawing in our lines, and then I'll smooth everything else. See, I've created actually I can smooth that now and use it, but all of those extra globs that we created, now that I've created all of my stars, I can go ahead and smooth them out. And you just want to make sure that while you're smoothing them, you're still moving in that circular motion, so it still goes along with the moon being circular, of course. And there's some here. All right, I think that looks amazing. Oh, I see some globs here. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush off, and we're gonna go in with our last color for this top. And I'm probably gonna do a little more smoothing before I move on to the next step. But our last color that I am choosing to do last is white. So we used a little scoop of our white to make our light blue, but I'm just going to go onto the other side that is not tainted and use that to create little highlights. And look at the dimension that that adds to the painting. It's amazing. And don't be afraid to also pick up colors. It's alright if you create a pink or a light blue or light yellow, whatever it is that the white chooses to pick up. Just let it happen. And just go in. I'm not going to add as much white as I did any other colors, but I do want it to be there. And I specifically wanted to make some type of appearance inside of my moons or stars. How many times am I going to make that mistake? And more specifically in this big one, I would like for that white to make an appearance and just kind of lighten it up a little bit. All right. And I just want to make that as smooth as possible. It's alright if you have some texture to your painting and it dries a little lifted or anything. It adds personality. Alright, and I think that is it for our background. You can go ahead and clean all of the brushes that you used off, because we're going to start to work below our horizon line while we give this time to dry, because it needs to dry in order for us to put our city of Milwaukee on top, so we just want to make sure that everything is smooth. Again, smooth and dry. And over here, I'm just cleaning off my brushes, getting ready for the next step. If you're still working, continue to work and fill in that background how you see fit. Alright, so all of my brushes are clean and they are dry now. So I'm going to start working below the horizon. So this is our lake. I'm going to lift this off of my easel a little bit so that I can get the bottom. And we're just using the same technique that we did for the top, except this time we are going to not use the red. So I have run out of light blue on my palette, so that means I need to mix some more, which I'm going to take my blending brush, take a few scoops of that blue, which I said I would need some more blue anyway, so, and I will need some for the lake. And then I've already got some water on there, so I'm just taking out the excess blue here. And then I'm just, from that same side, taking a few scoops of white. And then adding a little bit of blue, just mixing that in. Just making sure I'm getting all of that. And also making sure that I'm making a complete mess, because you're not an artist unless you make a mess. Alright, so that's nice and mixed up. Again, just getting all of that excess color out of my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off again. And if you need clean water, mine is getting a little dirty, go ahead and change your water out. I'll probably do so after this color, but I'm just cleaning my brush off over to the side. Alright, so all of my brushes are currently cleaned. I'm going to stack this up, make it look a little more presentable. Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to start to do my water. So this, we're just making a reflection here, but your spirals don't have to be perfectly placed to reflect. Just do what you see fit. And I have also just realized that I need to fill this in, so I will wait for me to complete this, and then when I'm doing the yellow for the water, I will fill in my last little star that I seem to forgot. But similarly, we're going to go in with our light blue just like we did up top. I'm just fully coating that brush with that blue, and I'm creating more spirals. And I'm just going to use the smaller one this time. And you can also take this opportunity to fix any mistakes in the line that you made. Not that big of a deal, but it's your painting. I say as I fix my own mistakes. You just kind of go in a circular motion. We learned this technique, so you're just using the skills that you so expertly picked up. And we're just creating our circles, our spirals, wherever we think they should go. And you want to really use your wrist when you create these spirals. Get that wrist working. Look at that. See? It's like nothing ever happened. And then I'm just going to create one right here. And that is a good amount of spirals, I think. And then I'm just going to keep this same dirty brush, and I'm just going to go right into my my regular blue that came on with the palette, and just go ahead and add that in. Again, light hand. You don't need to be so tense painting this. You can relax and just do light brush strokes, because we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for texture. Right? Alright, and again, you can take that blue and you can fill in any mistakes, or you can just leave the mistakes, because why not? Adds character. Alright. Okay, so I think that looks great. I'm going to clean my brush off. I magically got new water, so I'm going to clean my brush in my fresh new clean water. Not to brag or boast or anything. And dry it off. Just taking it along the paper towel. And I'm going to go in with my yellow. So yellow is just right at the center of the painting. Just like we did at the top, we're just adding that yellow in. Again, it's okay to add some texture. And this is a reflection, so it really doesn't have to be perfect, because water moves and distorts light. That is its magic. So these lines, these circles and things do not have to be perfect. And I'm just bringing that out around the spirals. Alright, we have one more over here. Alright, I'm just adding some randomly because I think they look pretty. Okay, so now I'm just taking my yellow and I'm filling in that star that I forgot over here. Sorry about that. To the painting. I feel like you have to treat your paintings nicely for some reason. So I'm gonna apologize. Alright, and we have our water and we have our sky. Go ahead and clean that brush off. And my sky is not yet dry, so I'm going to give it a little bit of time to dry. You should as well. You can continue to work and perfect your water while you wait for that to dry, because we don't necessarily need the water to be dry to move on to the next step. Our next step is going to go on top of our sky background, so that is what we need to dry. And I'm just going through and just smoothing out some of the paint that I see. You want to make sure that you're cleaning your brush off when you're smoothing though, because you don't want to keep on picking up colors and just creating brown everywhere. Alright, so I think that I pretty much smoothed everything out. Gonna add a little bit of yellow here because I want to. And this doesn't necessarily have to be dry because nothing is going to go on top of it. Just adding some. The ones that are high up, nothing is going to be painted on them, so they don't necessarily have to be dry for us to move on. This does need to be dry, so I need to stop messing with it and just smooth it out so it can dry. And I'm just picking up paint and kind of wiping it off on my palette. Alright, I think we can let this sit and dry. Of course, if you are still working, go ahead and keep on adding your details wherever you see fit. I'm going to let mine dry and turn up the music, and you just do your thing. Alright, I am back with the hands. So first to move on to our next step, I believe that my background is mostly dry, at least the parts that I need to paint over. And if not, um, the black will overpower any other color anyway. So it is not too concerning. So now we can put our buildings over top of our background. So all of our buildings will be painted in black first. Very simple. First brush I'm going in with is this medium-sized brush, the same brush we use to blend, and I'm going in with that black paint. So I'm fully coating my brush with that black paint and just making sure that I get a nice loaded paint so that I can make one long brush stroke. And we're going to start with our first building. It's just going to be the length of this brush going straight down. As far as measurement, you want it to be about another third of a canvas, so about that much. And it's going to be close but not touching the edge. So I'm just going to go straight down, as straight as I possibly can. You want to make sure that you're utilizing that wrist and just going straight down. Like I said, confidence is how you get straight lines. So, and I'm just making sure that this is a smooth layer because we do need to go over top of it later on. Just making sure that it's smooth and it dries nicely. Alright, and then we can add another building. Now I'm not, hope this doesn't upset you, but I'm not originally from Milwaukee, so I do not know these buildings right off the top of my head. So if you do, you know, I'm sorry that I don't. But we're going to create this building here. And this one has a little bit of a dome at the top, which you can go ahead and with this brush and create that dome. I'm going to go in later with my smaller brush when we do our more, I don't know, less just straight line buildings. And I've kind of made a mistake here by making these buildings touch, but I can always go in later with blue once that dries and kind of clear up that space. And then I'm going to create beside that, again loading my brush with that black paint. I'm going to go in beside that and create a shorter building that's connected. Just like that. Nice and smooth. And then we've got some shorter buildings. We're going to give it a little space. Just a little space. And create another building there. And if your lines do not turn out perfect, we're going in later with our detail brush anyway to make some corrections, so it's alright. And I just created a bit of a wider building, and there's also a building beside that that is a little bit taller, but it connects perfectly to it. And I'm just straightening that out. Where's my confidence? My lines are a little bit wiggly, but it's alright. Let's take a deep breath. Inhaling that confidence, letting out that tension. Alright. So now, connecting in between there, I'm going to make kind of a triangle with a little bit of curve to it. Bam. Just like that. And if you need to wait for that for the detail brush, go ahead. But I'm going to continue to draw some buildings. So right beside that building, we are just going to go straight across for a little bit until we add our, and I may have made that one a little bit wide, so I'm going to add this here, and I may need to make a correction there, but it's alright, no big deal, don't stress over it. But I'm going to create a building that goes in the middle of here, as well as right beside it, and this one's going to be tall as the ones over here. All right. And then lastly, before we add our extra details, I'm going to add the bridge. So I'm going to retire this brush now into the water. I'll clean it after we get done with these details, but I'm going to take our smallest little detail brush, a clean one, and I'm just going back in with that black paint, and we're going to start to draw our bridge. So we're first going to draw a line that almost connects here to this building, and then we're just going to let it kind of thin out as it connects. And then from the water, we're going to create a bow like effect, like you're making a rainbow or like you're making a bridge, quite literally. You're just creating a nice bridge line. Correct that as you see fit, and then we're making another one that kind of goes off of the canvas. And we're doing another line that connects just like that. And then now we can add some more details. So we're adding nice light lines. You just want to make quick brush strokes to get those light lines in between the bridge. The last time I saw this bridge, it was nice and lit up, and it was so pretty. So if you are feeling creative today, you can add some lights to your bridge. It's yours. But now we're going to just add some details. So this building fans out a little bit. And it also has this little dome here at the end that we would like to create. And then if you have kind of dips like this in your building, you can take that detail brush and kind of fix those up. That's why I said don't worry about it too much, because when you go in with the detail brush, you can make more corrections. So with this building, we're going to create a mini triangle. Just give it a nice little pointed top. And then we're gonna put a rectangle on top of, or I guess in this case a square, on top of that. And then another pointy top. Mastering our architecture. All right. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now this here, I will have to make a few corrections. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it the correct way. And this here is what I'll correct later. Mistakes are natural. They happen. So from this point that I created, I'm going to bring it straight up, or as straight as I possibly could. And it's a little bit shorter than the building that it is beside. And again, just correct as you see fit. There we go. Nice. Okay, so now we have to create the horizontal lines that go through. And they will connect to this building just a little bit. And we're just going confidently across. And they get shorter and shorter as you get down to the bottom. All right. And I'm just going to add a little one down at the bottom, just because. And I think I would like to extend this up just a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to give this building a little cone or point as well, just like we did at the last building. So you're just creating nice lines. And I'm also going to correct the side, just because it is a little. And I'm using these hands to stabilize my fingers on the canvas a little bit to help me get straighter lines. Good technique. Kind of like giving yourself a little tripod to stabilize yourself on. And then we're going to add two little hills on the top of this building. So you're just taking the brush up, bringing it around, taking the brush up, bringing it around like ears. And then for this building that we did at the beginning, I'm going to straighten mine out a little bit. But we're going to create a dome on the top. Just like that. Beautiful. Okay, and then this one, we're just adding a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm just adding a smaller little rectangle at the top. As you can see, it kind of adds a little divot here. And then that is all of our buildings. And so now is your chance. If you would like to fix anything and go back, you can. Give it time, give it a little time to dry before you put anything on top. But if you're just fixing the shape of your buildings, that is perfectly fine right now. But I'm just cleaning off my brushes that I used. And just drying them off for our next step. But I'm gonna give mine some time to dry before I start to add my corrections and also my lights for my building and the separation. So go ahead and continue to work on perfecting your buildings. You have a little more room than I do, so if you are left with more space, you can add more buildings, more things to it. Completely up to you. Do as you see fit. Alright, so I'm coming back because my edges, though this painting is not completely dry, or the last layer that I added on is not completely dry, I'm going to add a few of my corrections in. So to fix my spots, I'm just going to go in with blue paint in that smallest detail brush. And I just have this building touching here a little too much. They're a little too close. I just need them to separate just a little bit. And so I'm just adding that blue right in the middle there. And I ended up adding some light blue on there too. Just because our background isn't just one color. And I think that is everything that I needed to correct. Actually, no, it's not. Close. But I'm just going in with that blue and fixing up this side as well. Again, pretty much dry. But you just want to make sure that yours is dry. It's your call, of course. But I'm just fixing in that blue, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of white and kind of blend it back in a little bit. Alright. And I'm also going to go in and I'm going to smooth out some of the globs of paint that I see. I didn't take my own advice and fix those, so I'm going to fix them now while I have a little bit of time to. Just to speed up the drying process a little more. And you just want to be very light of hand because you don't want to ruin any of your beautiful lines that you've created. But I'm just smoothing things out just a little bit. I might need to go back in and correct that line, but it is okay. Smoothing this out. Oh, well there we go. Okay. And I'm just gonna, alright. Alright, and I'm just gonna give it a little more time to dry. I just wanted to come in and speed up the drying process a little bit. Alright, so let's finish up this painting. Now I'm going in the last couple, or the last brush we'll use is our smallest detail brush. So I'm just making sure that mine are clean for this next step. If yours are not clean, go ahead and clean them. Alright, so our last colors we're going to use are just the yellow and the white that came on the palette, besides any colors you would need to make any corrections. But I'm going to go in with the white paint. So we're going to use the white paint to create the divisions and dimensions within our buildings, and then we're going to use the yellow to then create our windows and doors or whatever details are on the building. So I'm just going to go from right to left. Surprised that I knew my left and right off the top of my head like that. Usually don't. But we're going to create a line here. We're going to create a division between this building. So again, confident lines. That line wasn't so confident, as you can see. There we go. A lot better. And you want to do it lightly so that you get thin lines. And then going to go ahead and close that building off. And then we're going to create like a little mini building here in between. So it's going to have like a little square at the top, which is just those three lines. And then we're just going to have it go across. And I'm actually going to let it fall off of this building a little bit. Just like that. And then we also want to complete it on this side as well. And then we're going to create a building here. A nice little shorter building. This adds a little more dimension to our city, so it's not just this flat silhouette. It has some details, it has some character. So I'm just drawing that line down again, and then I'm going to bring it down kind of like we did this rectangle here. And that was a terrible line, so I'm just going to fix it a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to bring it all the way to the end here. There we go. And I'm also going to divide these buildings. Just create a little suggestive line. We're going to highlight the top of this building. Just like that. Add another line here. And I just touched this part, so let me hurry up and paint it over to hopefully give it a little bit of time to dry. You want to avoid that. Alright, and I'm going to create a division here. And we've got to add our details here. So I'm going to add a little bow or like a parentheses or a smile. Then going to create a line that separates here. Just like that. And we're going to complete our parentheses right on the top here. Close it off. Complete the phrase. And then we're just going to create some highlighting lines. So I'm going to put one right here on the edge of this. Right here. And then we're going to do one that goes directly down in the middle. So I'm just going to bring it up. Take your time. There we go. And then we're going to highlight each. Well, let me fix that just a little bit. Now we're going to highlight each and every little one of these lines on the side. So, since this line runs into this building, you also want to highlight it in the way that it runs into it. Okay? Here we go. And I'm going to bring these lines a little bit closer to the middle. Kind of thin this figure out just a little bit. All right. And we're going to keep on adding our details in. So I'm just picking up a little more white paint. And I'm continuing to add our details. So we have a little building that is below here. So we're just going to bring that across and bring it down. It's separating from the last building that we did. Again, confident lines so you don't end up with wiggly lines like I just did. But those can always be fixed. And we're going to create like a kind of door for that. So it's just like the first top sides of a triangle or a pyramid, and then we're going to create some lines on the side, and we'll have a window that goes in between those when we do our yellow. All right, and then we drew some details in here earlier that we're just going to now accentuate with our highlighted color. So we've got a line following the triangles we did here earlier, if you remember. If not, just copy what I'm doing. And then we're going to have one that just kind of goes up right through the middle. And then we're going to create a little bit of a bow up here, or arch. There we go. Look at our building coming together, or buildings, because there is more, way more than one just here. And I'm just going to create a little division line for these buildings. All right, and then we want to add some details to this one here. We're just going to add these 3 lines, and we're also going to separate it because we kind of want that side to get some attention as well. So we're just reflecting what we have here onto this side just to finish off that building, and we also want to finish off the top a little bit, give that building its own space. And you see how I've created these lines that kind of run down a little bit? That is okay, because you can correct those when our lines dry. And I'm just going to put some highlights on our bridge. So I'm going to highlight the bridge itself, just like that on top. And I'm also going to add some here. And of course at the bottom as well. And then as far as the white paint, oh, well, actually, I was going to say that was all of the details we needed to add, but I would be wrong. I forgot about this building up here. So we're just going to go back and add that in. And you know what? Before I speak again, I'm just going to make sure we've got everything down. Alright, I believe that is all that we need to do in white. Feel free to add any details that you think should be there and take this time to do so. I'm going to go ahead and dip right into my yellow. You do not necessarily need to clean the brush when you're dipping into that yellow because it'll blend so nicely with that white, and it won't make that big of a difference versus you using a color like a blue or something like that. Alright, so now I have yellow paint on that same detail brush. I just dipped into my regular yellow paint, and I'm going to start making windows. So this part you do not specifically need to follow exactly what I'm doing. You can freestyle and put windows where you see fit, but I'm just gonna go with the example that was given and just add some windows here going down in this building. I'm going to add some going vertically right up top here, and then some going horizontally down the side. And just picking up more paint as you go along. Can't forget about this building down here. You got to add some little details. So we're going to add a few windows, about 4 down at the bottom. Light it up, liven up the city. We're going to add a long window here. There we go. And I'm just going to, some of the lights in the building are off, some are on, so we're just going to kind of spot it around. Use your artist intuition. Pick which buildings are up tonight or which units are up tonight and just fill that in. We're going to do the same with this building. We'll add a few details here. And again, choose which units are on here. You know, quite randomly. Look at it coming together. I love it. Amazing. And then we're going to continue to do so here, adding our windows in. And then we've got to add our door here. We left a space for it. So this door is going to be a rectangular shape. So we're going to go down, cross, down, connected, and then fill that in. Simple shape. And you know, correct it where it needs to be corrected. All right, and then we're going to add some windows. Again, choosing which rooms are on. People studying, people partying, people having dinner, whatever they're doing at night. Just filling them in. Even if, you know, people have those LED lights now, so you can add some color into those windows as well. Give your painting some details that don't just make it look exactly like the one I'm doing here. But again, we're just going row by row and just picking which buildings are on. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Alright, and then we're going to add some lights into this building here. So since it has this curve on the edge, the lights kind of curve with the edges, as you can see. We're going to add some to the middle, and then we're also going to add some going horizontally in the middle. And that is basically all of the windows that I need to add. I would like to add a little highlight here. I think that would look nice. So now, at this point, you can be done with your painting. Congratulations, great job, you did amazing, I can tell. Or you can take this time to kind of go back and fix things that you think need to be there. Like, I think I can add a building that kind of goes off to the side here. I think I can fix this line here. You don't need to do any of this if you are done. This is just me. It's going back in and making it more visually appealing for you. I would like to extend these just a little bit, make it a little more prominent within the painting. Just going in, correcting anything that you think needs a little correcting. And I am satisfied with my painting at this point. I hope you are as well. Thank you for joining us today. You've made it to the end. Congratulations. And I hope you enjoy the final product. The last thing that you can do is just go ahead and add your signature to the bottom. You don't want anybody to steal your painting, of course. You can even add the date if you would like. But that is everything. You're complete. You're done. Thank you so much. Bye. See you next time.